Joe Biden pardoned son while claiming selective prosecution. Trump names Kash Patel to serve as FBI director. Don't use blue mailboxes. More signs of a degraded society and failure by the United States Postal Service. This is Dr. David D. Schein for a special episode of Saving America with our weekly update. And there's a fascinating bunch of stories to cover this week. Unless you were living under a rock all week, you know that the pathetic excuse for a president did what any thinking person knew what was going to happen. Yep, Biden pardoned his son. I find it laughable that the Dems and the slopstream media are expressing fake surprise, and many of them finally threw Biden under the bus. The point is that this was always going to happen. Biden has been in public life for 50 years. He's always been stupid and corrupt, then has been sliding into dementia. If he had done some good along the way, I would have some sympathy for him and his family. But he has taken care of himself and his immediate family and thrown America under the bus. I am still calling for him to be prosecuted for selling in America when he was the VP. Biden added insult to injury by claiming that these mild prosecutions versus the long list of alleged legal offenses by Hunter Biden was actually political prosecution. Given that the DOJ was solidly under Dem control and many more serious charges were allowed to run out their statute of limitations, this is a preposterous claim. But hey, as my mom used to say, consider the source and ignore it. The clowns with egg on their faces include the scum Dems who complained so loudly about the SCOTUS immunity ruling in favor of Trump. I predicted then that the Dems would love it when it came to Biden. That could happen more quickly than anyone could have expected. Speaking as an attorney, the pardon is so broad that many legal authorities are questioning its actual effectiveness. I like it since I understand that as the Comer Commission investigates VP Biden selling out America, Hunter Biden cannot evoke the Fifth Amendment. I predict he will not sell out his father and his uncle and will spend time in jail for contempt. Let's see what happens next. United Healthcare CEO fatally shot at a New York hotel, or actually in front of the hotel. Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Health Insurance Unit, was fatally shot in the chest by a masked gunman this week in front of a Hilton hotel in Midtown Manhattan. The stunning development indicated that a masked man shot Thompson from a distance, was obviously targeting him personally. As of this recording time, there is no suspect in custody and a motive has not been indicated. No one is safe in America these days. Hope that can be resolved. As my regular listeners know, for incidents like this, I call for the legal system to promptly do its job when the shooter is caught, and then for the death penalty to be swiftly administered. It does sound like a professional hit. Trump names Kash Patel to serve as FBI director. This is probably the most fun anyone can have in politics. Given the trashing of the FBI under Chris Wray, who Trump actually appointed, that makes this an even more interesting deal. As I've noted when I speak on the performance of presidents, Trump did a lousy job with appointments in his prior administration. I think he is off to a fair start this time. Wray was bluntly a terrible choice. Better than Comey, but that's not saying a whole lot. Contrary to the overblown meltdown of the Dems and their supporters in the slopstream media, Kash Patel has excellent credentials. Trump introduced the nomination on his Truth Social. Kash is a brilliant lawyer, investigator, and America First fighter who spent his career exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people. And then Trump added, Patel played a pivotal role in uncovering the Russia hoax, standing as an advocate for truth, accountability, and the Constitution. Sounds like kind of the introduction to the old Superman TV series. Despite the slopstream media meltdown, Kash Patel has very strong credentials, including federal prosecutor at the U.S. Department of Justice, served as chief of staff to the U.S. Secretary of Defense, and was a senior advisor to the acting director of the National Intelligence during the Trump first term. He's done some hard work on investigating terrorism, clearly an important topic for what hopefully will be a revamped FBI. A minor rub is that Wray has 3 years left on his appointment, but Trump can still fire him. I suspect he will resign shortly after the inauguration. Remember that Trump is entitled to his own cabinet. As I said last week, after the ludicrous collection of clowns in key government roles under Biden, the Dems and their buddies have no ground from which to throw stones. As Trump's nominee for DEA chief withdraws from consideration, Chad Chronister, the Hillsborough County Sheriff in Florida, withdrew as potential head of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA. Chronister posted to X that he made the decision after considering so-called the gravity of this very important responsibility, and he had more to do in his current law enforcement role. Blamed on this is Republican Senator Massey from Kentucky, who was not a fan of Chronister due to an incident during COVID where Chronister arrested a pastor for opening his church in the violation of the lockdown rules. I do not know if this had a direct impact, but quite possible. I'm a hardcore anti-drug person, including marijuana, so hopefully Trump will appoint a tough enforcement person and shut down the booming illegal drug trade in this country. At the same time, the rumor mill is swirling the nomination of Pete Hegseth is in trouble, and that he may be the next person to withdraw from his nomination, in this case, as Secretary of Defense. The single incident reported against him has now mushroomed into multiple claims against the decorated former military officer. We shall see, folks. Hey, Trump, would it not be a good idea to take the process a little slower and fully investigate these folks before nominating them? Hey, I'm just asking. Trump transition team members, appointees threatened. So much for Biden uniting America. These reports of threats came in a batch over the last week. Lee Zeldin in New York said his threat included a pro-Palestinian themed message. The FBI released a statement that said, in part, the FBI is aware of numerous bomb threats and swatting incidents targeting incoming administration nominees and appointees, and we are working with our law enforcement partners. We take all potential threats seriously, and as always, encourage members of the public to immediately report anything that they consider suspicious to law enforcement, end quote. The most serious incident was by Manuel Tamayo Torres of Arizona, who reportedly posted videos to Facebook in recent months with an AR-15 style rifle and other weapons, threatening to kill Trump and his family. Now, he has been arrested and charged in that case. Before Matt Gaetz withdrew from consideration, he received threats of a possible pipe bomb. Elise Stefanik, the designated U.S. ambassador to the UN, and her family were also threatened based on reports. Other reported targets were John Ratcliffe, Pete Hegseth, Agricultural Secretary nominee Brooke Rollins, and U.S. Commerce Secretary nominee Howard Lutnick. Later, there were reports that some Democrats were threatened as well. There's no room for this in America, and I hope those who made the threats are punished to deter such conduct in the future. This is not how America rolls, folks. 3 Americans jailed in China returning home after a diplomatic deal. In an effort to appear relevant and perhaps have a win near the end of its presidency, the Biden administration was able to obtain the release of 3 hostages who have been imprisoned in China for years. My issue is that Biden has yet to disclose what was given to China in exchange. The 3 are Mark Swiden, Kai Li, and John Loon, businessmen whom the United States said China had detained on wrongful charges. The continuing lack of respect for America on the world stage is disconcerting and may prompt a stronger position by Trump with growing public support for that position. No American should be afraid of being taken hostage anywhere in the world. Claudia Sheinbaum flip-flops on the border while Trudeau comes to break bread with Trump. It's generally been a busy week on the international scene, and that's mostly good news for the Trump transition team. He had a phone call with New Mexican President Sheinbaum, where he later reported progress on the border. Quickly thereafter, however, Sheinbaum claimed publicly that she made no such deal. Don't do business with commies. Starve her out until she's out of office and the cartels are destroyed. I call for a total boycott of Mexico if they cannot seal off their border, shut down the drug cartels. This means avocados and other Mexican produce can rot in the grocery stores, and cars made in Mexico should be identified and left unsold at the dealership. Canada is not doing well economically, and the last thing they need is a fight with Trump in the USA. Trudeau even made a trip to Florida to have dinner with Trump and meet in person. Of course, he's reportedly a lame duck, but the conservatives getting ready to move in up in Canada are very much aligned with Trump's policies. I do expect Canada to get on board and be a key partner in the future. I hear that Canada is also ready to jump on board with a restart of the Keystone Pipeline that Biden stupidly killed. Kamala pops her head up. Folks, remember we have a disabled president wandering around the globe. VP Harris still has a job to do for the taxpayers, yet she vacationed in Hawaii instead of waiting until January 20th. How useless can she be? She then made a pathetic speech that featured her poor body language while she mumbled about keeping up the fight. I wouldn't say she coached to keep the faith, as she made another pitch for abortion. The Dems hung their hopes on killing babies. It worked in 2022. It clearly did not work in 2024. She has a sense of humor in that she claims that she plans to be the Dem candidate for president in 2028. Leading Dems came out of the woodwork to argue that she is washed up and could only win an election in the deranged state of California. Don't use blue mailboxes. More signs of a degraded society and failures by the United States Postal Service. This one was prompted by a report by Dave Basner regarding a USPS press release actually telling hundreds of millions of USPS customers to avoid using the official blue mailboxes. There were over 130,000 blue mailboxes across the country. Now, the abject failures at the USPS have issued a warning to Americans who plan to use the collection boxes that they might not be safe to use. As an American who had 2 mail checks stolen in the last 18 months, I am certainly sensitive to the cumulative failures of the Postal Service. The Postal Service explains that the boxes are attractive to thieves hoping to steal checks or identities, especially at specific times and on specific days. Quoting, "The biggest variable enticing these criminals to steal are customers depositing mail into the blue collection boxes after the last collection of the day or during Sundays and federal holidays. The Postal Service has some advice. If customers simply use retail service or inside wall drops to send their US mail instead of depositing to sit outside overnight or through the weekend, blue collection boxes would not be as enticing after business hours to mail thieves for identity theft and check washing schemes." And again, I've just been a victim of both. Adding, "The most secure way to send mail is through local post office retail counter. If that's not feasible, the next safest way is to use the inside collection slots that deposit mail directly into the post office." Hey, how about something called Zelle? Yeah, folks, I am doing everything I can not to mail checks at all in light of what's happened to me over the last 18 months. Hey, postal management, how about providing video security and alarms on those blue boxes? How about aggressive prosecution of criminals and mandatory prison sentences of 5 years or more for each incident? How about doing your jobs more efficiently? My article from summer 2023 in the American Thinker titled "End the Postal Service Con Job" might steer things in the right direction. No sympathy for the Postal Service. They need to do a better job and a more economical, better job. Closing it out, this is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America's Weekly Report. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your support on our various platforms and social media. Please subscribe to your favorite platform and tune in again.